change? I don't know, Mr. Clemens?
I don't think we've met. Jack Capra. Nice to meet you. I'm actually on time.
No worries, and actually you're early, we love it. We're a little behind schedule this morning, we're ahead of schedule now, so it's great.
Probably. You know the drill.
Hey,
They're not here to see you. Is it okay if I sit down?
whatever you wish, whatever you're most comfortable doing.
So, if that's
Well,
okay.
catch us up on what you've been doing since we last saw you.
Since the last saw me, I was appointed to the St. Augustine Code Enforcement Board. So I took another volunteer government position with St. Augustine. I actually moved my government office, as you know, I work for the Department of Juvenile Justice, and I service 4 circuits, 3rd, 8th, 4th, and 7th. Although I live in the 7th, I live in St. Augustine, my office had been in Jacksonville. But as more and more juvenile issues seem to have cropped up in the 7th, for good or bad, I relocated my office to downtown St. Augustine. If anybody's familiar with St. Augustine, my office is now in the Lightner Museum, which is about as good as it can get in St. Augustine. So, other than that, I hope everybody had a good Christmas break. If you had one, I didn't. But that's about it. Same. Been very busy. One interesting thing that occurred too late for this application process. I've been noted or discussed in the past that my application has been light on legal research or legal memorandum.
Taking the question right out of my mouth.
I'm sorry. I think I gave you guys something different this time to read.
Yeah, you got two motions. It looked like they're kind of, your typical DJJ boilerplate type motions. Then there were some other writings that you attached.
I attached that other writings just so you know that I can actually write in something in depth. I gave you, I think, one from my doctorate and one from one of my master's classes in 2 different writing styles. And primarily that is because with the Department of Juvenile Justice, as many government, on the firing line type jobs, is you don't end up doing a lot of appellate writing. You do a lot of boilerplate motions. And that has certainly been the case. However, I had my first appellate, I did an emergency habeas brief to the first DCA about a week after that application was due, and they took the case, and I had an appellate brief due, and have turned that in. Well, love to share it with you, but it was too late to get in this time. So I actually have some current legal writing that,
Gotcha.
And did you enjoy writing? Because I know we've said, like, give us more writing. You say that's not the job I have right now. So how is
I do enjoy it. I do enjoy it. If I didn't, I wouldn't probably do so much outside education stuff. I just don't have the opportunity to do it. And interestingly, I really enjoy writing appellate type work, and I think that kind of coincides with my LLM, which is in taxation. It's sort of code work. It's really interesting to put statutes to cases to a legal analysis of writing. And I do enjoy that. It's challenging, not as challenging when you believe you're right and the law is on your side and you have something to back you up, but I do enjoy it.
So you got a table full of lawyers, and the only non-lawyer down there is Mark, but Mark actually knows most of the judges in our circuit, I've come to find out. Are there any lawyers in the judges in the 7th Circuit that you have gotten to know, that you admire, you think you model yourself after their style? I mean, talk about that a little bit.
From my practice, because it's kind of, I don't get in a lot of court time with circuit judges that do it civil.
Right.
I just don't. I did civil practice and when I was in private practice in between stints with the Navy. So primarily I see the same ones that revolve through juvenile justice. What I see, I go in front of Judge Hood quite a bit recently, and before that Judge LaRue, who I found very, very reasonable. And also Judge Alexander in St. Johns County, who's been doing our juvenile stuff for a number of years. Before that, I went in front of Judge Traynor. And one judge that I never got to know professionally, although I wish I did, because his background looked very, very similar to mine, who actually was appointed to the federal bench from Mendoza, because he was a former Navy JAG, and then went to the circuit court and then to the federal. And I thought that, I wish I had gotten to know him before he moved on. So,
Okay.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah.
Looking at your resume, I noticed that you, in 2012, you got a master's in biblical studies, 2013, master's in history, 2014, doctorate in Christian studies.
Christian studies, yes, sir.
Christian
These-
studies, and now you're working on your PhD in forensic psychology.
Correct.
Normally, I would look at that and I'm going, he's preparing himself to be a college professor or something, and not a circuit judge. So can you explain what you're doing there?
Absolutely. Now, I've been blessed that because of my service with the government, with the new GI Bill program that was implemented, I think it's called post 9/11 GI Bill. I've been able to do that without having to pay for it, either taking student loans or having to actually pay for it, which just shows you what a great program that is. I'm glad they updated it, because I couldn't afford to do it otherwise. But I feel like education is a good thing, and I don't necessarily think that makes me a Renaissance man, but my interests are very diverse, clearly. And I found that I just enjoyed doing it, and I enjoyed the challenge of doing it more, that there was a goal in sight, as opposed to just taking some classes or studying on my own. I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, I might as well go ahead and get a degree. But it wasn't my goal to be a college professor. I certainly may want to do that. I just have always had a very, and if you look, I think those are all sort of centered around, except for my LLM and obviously the JD and the MBA, the rest of the stuff I've studied have all sort of involved history, historical research. Certainly the biblical studies was study of the Old and New Testament. It wasn't a comparative religion type thing. I didn't study Hinduism or Islam or anything. So it's really a study of the past. Understanding more of how we got to where we are and why we are the way we are, I guess.
Refresh my memory of what LLM you received from the
Tax.
University of Miami.
Tax. And I did the specialization in international taxation. A lot of fun.
What led you away from that path? I mean, I have a LLM in tax and I'm board certified in tax, so I understand the academic challenge that is, and to go through that and to actually succeed in that. What changed your mind from taking a path through that?
And I don't mean this to sound glib or flippant. 9/11. 9/11 absolutely derailed my career path at the time. I had joined the Navy after law school to become a Navy JAG, and did that for 5 years or so. And then went and got my LLM with the intention of going into private practice and doing estate planning, wills and trusts, those type of things, and did that rather successfully, because I thought I did very well. But held on to my Navy Reserve Commission. 9/11 happened, back in uniform, which was fine. I was more than happy to do that. Again, as a lawyer, and that completely, no more private practice for me, because of the nature of being deployed 7 times in the number of 9-10 years or whatever, until I retired in 2014. And I'm happy with that, and I'm proud of that. And I'm proud to say that I practiced law at the Iraqi courthouse under fire, and led people under fire doing, carrying law books and stuff. It's a very interesting career, but very diverse, and not necessarily the path others would have taken. Certainly, maybe not one I would have chosen, but I don't think I would do anything different.
And so, being from St. Augustine, I know that you did run for political office, and now you've chosen the path to wanting to be a judgeship. So tell me how you went from, like me, political side, and to the total opposite of apolitical side with respect to being on the judicial bench.
Absolutely. It was, there was an opportunity It wasn't anything that I had spent years and years planning. It was that our state house member resigned, vacated his office under Florida law because he ran for a state senate seat, which was vacated because the state senator, John Thrasher, became the president of Florida State University. So it was an opportunity that I chose to try to utilize. And I think that, you got to learn from everything. And I think what I learned from that was how to run, maybe not the most successful campaign, but certainly a good one. And will help me in this job because of, if the governor gives me the honor and puts under my shoulders the responsibility of an appointed position that you then need to defend in an election, I'm prepared to do that. I think more so than some other people who haven't had the political experience and just gone up, and it's just the way the world works. We've got a judicial system that does bleed over into the political system because you do have to run for election, and that's fine. But I also believe that you don't necessarily have to have one dream in your lifetime. I definitely have respect for people who are singular focused and go for one thing and spend their whole time doing that. But I just think that you go where your talents are best suited at the time, and you try to take advantage of that situation to the best you can for you and your family. And that's where I am today. I don't know if that answers your question.
Are you also putting in for vacancies in the 4th judicial circuit?
No, I am not. I don't plan on it because I live in the 7th. Again, my office is in the 4th, but now it's in the 7th. My whole focus really has always been the 7th. I've lived in the 7th since, I don't know, the last 10 years or so. I don't remember. But no, the answer is no.
How often do you have to go to court in the 3rd or the 8th circuit?
Very little, very little. And I don't know whether that's a reflection on do they not have issues involving juveniles, or we just don't hear about them. But certainly the most I go to any of those is generally in the most populated areas, so you're talking Gainesville and maybe Live Oak. Let's see there, in the 8th, I think. But generally, the majority of my practice, which is why they gave us such a large, me and another attorney, 20 counties is what it comes down to. It's because the majority of practice is what you think along the population centers of the coast: Daytona, St. Augustine, and Jacksonville. I've been getting a lot of business out of Putnam area.
What exactly do you do?
I am an assistant general counsel for the Department of Juvenile Justice, so the executive agency, but I am one of legal advisors for the department. So my client is the department, the executive agency. It is not, I'm not a prosecutor against children or a defense attorney for children. My client is the department. Now, generally, I do go to court a lot more than I would like to, because I go to court when there's generally an issue involving the law as it is applied to juveniles that then are in the custody of the department. So those are juveniles that are put in the detention center, which I would argue illegally, or in violation of statute, or have been sentenced to a sentence which is not authorized under the statutes, and those type of things. And you wish we didn't see as much as we do, but we do, because many judges don't understand exactly how juvenile law works. They assume the detention center is like a county jail where you can just house people in there, and that's not its purpose. So we do a lot of that, vote a lot of that stuff. And it's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
All right, so you've had that job for a while. And
13 years, almost 14 years.
And you're absolutely very educated. And this could be an ending question, so I'm afraid somewhat to ask it, but
Like career?
how, based on your experience, what ideas do you have to help fix our juvenile justice system and our problems that we're having with juvenile delinquency and juvenile crime?
That's a very good question, actually. And I don't, you don't know where the disconnect is, but in the perfect world, all judges would have spent some time in the legislature, and all legislators would have understood what it's like to administer the laws as they're written, because there's certainly a disconnect. So the biggest problem with it is that it's sort of here and there, sort of like the tax code. It needs to be all compiled, and it generally is in 984 and 985. But they're still hard to read. They're not written for judges. Sometimes I think the legislature writes things to be more complicated because they just think it sounds good or something. There's a big issue going on right now. I don't know if you probably saw it, that the District Court of Appeals ruled against DJJ on the funding thing, as far as funding allocations for detention centers, which are located and run by counties, but it's a state agency that oversees it. So whose budget does that money come out of? Those are the issues. Big issues about the appropriate level of punishment for juvenile offenders, where they're treated, at what level should they be treated as an adult. A lot of discretion right now is with the state attorney's office. The legislature has the ability to change that, and they may. Then, of course, the issue of where juveniles should do their pretrial time. Right now, if you're charged as an adult, you're supposed to go in the county, and they're supposed to have a special area for juveniles. But and we're not set up to do that at the detention center, but a lot of people do that at the detention center. But the law is pretty clear; they're not supposed to do that. So, a lot of issues. Certainly, a lot of issues about at what level should a child, a youth, statutory youth, be held responsible for the crimes they commit as an adult, or either as under juvenile sanctions. So, and they're taking some looks at some of those things.
Do you think that our early intervention system is not working?
I'm not sure what you're 100% referring to.
Well, when a juvenile first comes into the system, do you think that everything is the way that it should be in that part of the world, or do you think maybe there's some things that need to be fixed when the first time you see the juvenile come into the system? I mean, I'm not talking about the one that goes out and kills somebody.
No, I know what you're saying.
The one that might have stolen the hubcap or whatever.
I think the answer really comes down to funding. Again, it's how much money how much does society put value on correcting the issue, punishing the issue, or readdressing it to means. And one of the reasons I like Judge Traynor so much when I first joined the department was he had a robust alternative sanctions program, which are on the books, but most counties cannot afford to do that. And it's just a funding issue, and that's where you can pretrial intervention, those kind of things for juveniles, and maybe not get them on the path. I mean, a lot of times you put these good, mediocre kid together with a very bad kid, and they learn bad things, and we're exposing them to that because we house them all together. But if you had a separate program and after school, washing the police cars and things like that for community service, but they got to be supervised. Somebody's got to pay for it.
But you think that works, or do you think that's?
I think it does work.
Okay,
I think it does.
And my roundabout way was that's what I was asking. So
I think
appreciate
anything
you
we
telling me
can
that.
do to keep a juvenile from further entering the system is how society, what kind of society we want to be. Is it easier to just lock somebody up and forget about them? But in the long run, those kids end up costing society much more because they get on a path, but then soon they're not my problem. They're the felony judge's problem and the Department of Corrections' problem, and that's got to be a much more expensive thing overall, over generationally, than would be just to give them an alternative sanctions and hopefully turn themselves around.
What are your thoughts on the Unified Family Court?
I'm sorry?
What are your thoughts on the Unified Family Court?
I don't do as much work in family court as you would think, because of the way the executive agencies, DCF and Department of Juvenile Justice, are separated. And there used to be one department, I don't know, 15, 12 years, 16 years ago or something, and they're not anymore. So I don't do the dependency sides as much as I do because it's not they're not criminal. Once they get a delinquency tag on them, then they become an apartment. So, but again, I think a lot of those issues again come down to funding, is who's going to monitor what. I mean, you can only have so many people who volunteer and guardian ad litem and those type of things. So, I think it's a good idea. Keep everything as local and as unified as possible. That's why I'm kind of a proponent of truancy courts, and not a lot of counties do that, although statutorily they can. But again, it just comes down to what you have the resources for.
Tom, I have two questions that I'm going to be struggling with as we deliberate, or want to know before I deliberate. They're not equal in seriousness. One, I want to know what's on your hand. Say, don't legislate from the bench. Is that what it?
No. What's on my hand is, this is very strange, but I check minority status because I am 3/16 of Navajo Indian, but I don't look like I am because I wasn't culturally raised. And I always forget the mathematical formula, the number that I am, so I wrote that down. And I also just wrote down some high points that I just wanted to click on my experience. It says right here, it says the government experience, can't even read my own writing, education and leadership, which I believe are all qualities that I possess which make me the best qualified candidate for this job.
Great. The other question I have is, I think this has been a wonderful discussion with you. I think this has just been from my perspective, I can't speak for everyone, but a robust discussion, a thoughtful discussion, a really nice opportunity to get to know you and your thoughts. Your last interview wasn't that strong, and this isn't, an audition to be in a band where this one snapshot is it. How do I balance, your last interview maybe being weaker and then this being a fabulous discussion? Like, what's the difference?
I wish I could tell you that. I don't. I mean, first of all, I was running late and completely lost, and it was not a good day to begin with. And that's not really an excuse. I don't know. I could lie to you and tell you I spent hours, planning for this, much more than I did the last time, but that's simply not the case.
Are we better question askers now? Is that the difference?
Maybe that. You guys are so much better for that. I think it's Clemens. The addition to him has changed the whole time.
Oh, you don't know how much it's changed.
I don't know if that answers your question, but I guess that's the answer I got. I'm trying to be honest with you.
No, I just appreciate the conversation today, and didn't know if something had changed on your end. Fair enough.
So I see that you've been hanging out in Rotary.
Yeah. Well, I've been a member of Rotary International since 1999, 1998 or something. Was in Vero Beach, and then was a member of St. Augustine Rotary. San Jose Country Club in Jacksonville for a number of years. But I have recently become, I guess I've become a member on Monday, officially, of the St. Augustine Rotary. A great club. Yeah, Rotary's a great program. Great. I'm not going to tell you guys on it. But
No recruiting.
no, not going to do it. But
Well, thanks for coming in as always. It was good to see you. And
Good to see you.
we will be back with you later this afternoon.
thank you very much for your time, and thank you all for what you do.
Absolutely.
I know it takes a lot out of your business and work.